There's a confusion at the heart of every spiritual tradition. A confusion that has led millions into systems of control instead of liberation. Two terms, monad and God, used interchangeably. Two concepts treated as synonyms, but they point to completely different realities. One lives in the realm of thought, belief, and cultural conditioning. The other exists before thought ever arose, before belief became necessary, before culture shaped how you see the divine. When you mistake one for the other, spirituality becomes a cage instead of a gateway. Throughout every era, across every civilization, humans have reached toward the source. They've used countless names, built elaborate mythologies, created entire cosmologies. But beneath all the variation, two distinct principles keep emerging: the concept of God and the reality of the monad. On the surface, they seem to describe the same thing. But in practice, in consciousness, in lived experience, they operate on entirely different levels. This video isn't about semantics or academic philosophy. This is about understanding the layers of reality itself. Because recognizing the gap between God and the monad is the difference between spiritual seeking and spiritual awakening. Let's dive in. For most people, God exists inside the mind, not as an experience, but as a concept. God becomes a personality, a moral authority, a judge, a protector, a punisher, a cosmic parent. This version of God is shaped by culture, by childhood conditioning, by authority structures, by fear and hope. Even when God is described as infinite or loving, the image is still anthropomorphic, human-like, relational, narrative-based. That's not wrong, but it's symbolic, not absolute. This God exists within thought, which means it can be believed in, argued about, defended, or rejected. Anything that can be believed can also be doubted, and anything that can be doubted is not the ground of reality. It's a representation, a finger pointing at the moon. And for thousands of years, humanity has been worshiping the finger. The monad is not a being. It's not a personality. It's not a ruler. And it's not an authority. The monad is that which exists before subject and object appear, before thought, identity, time, space, before the observer and the observed. The monad is not aware of itself as something separate. It does not decide. It does not judge. It does not intervene. It simply is. Not one as a number, but one as undivided reality. Calling the monad God already distorts it, because the word God implies a something. The monad is not something. It is being itself prior to form. The ancient Gnostics understood this. They called it the invisible spirit, the father of all, the unnameable. They said it was beyond being and non-being, beyond light and darkness, beyond good and evil. Because all dualities arise after the monad, not within it. You cannot pray to the monad. You cannot worship it. You cannot believe in it. Because belief requires distance. And there is no distance between you and the monad. You are it. People experience God, but people don't experience the monad. Experience requires a subject, an object, a boundary. The monad dissolves all three. That's why encounters with God often involve visions, voices, feelings, emotional highs, guidance, narratives, whereas realization of the monad involves silence, collapse of self-reference, absence of interpretation, the end of seeking. God appears to you. The monad reveals that there is no you apart from reality itself. One reinforces identity, the other dissolves it. And this is not a small difference. This is the difference between living in a dream and waking up. If you're beginning to see the distinction, don't look away. Subscribe to this channel. Because what we're doing here is not entertainment. This is transmission. Every video is a key unlocking another layer of the prison you didn't know you were in. Civilizations don't organize around the monad. They organize around symbols. A personalized God creates social cohesion. It establishes moral frameworks, justifies authority, maintains order. The monad cannot be weaponized. It cannot be owned. It cannot be institutionalized. So traditions wrapped the ineffable source in stories, names, laws, rewards, and punishments. And over time, the symbol replaced the source. People began worshiping the representation instead of recognizing what it represented. This isn't evil, it's functional, but it's not realization. When God is your highest reference, you seek approval, salvation, protection, meaning granted from above. When the monad is recognized, seeking ends, not because you achieved something, but because the one who was seeking dissolves. Life doesn't become passive, it becomes unforced. Ethics arise naturally. Compassion becomes automatic. Presence replaces belief. You don't obey reality. You are reality, appearing as life. Let me show you what this means in practical terms. Think about the last time you prayed. What were you doing? You were talking to something you believed was separate from you, something out there, up there, beyond you. You were asking for help, guidance, forgiveness, intervention. And maybe you felt something, a warmth, a presence, a sense of being heard. That's real. But it's not absolute. What you experienced was the movement of consciousness within form. The divine appearing as emotion, as thought, as energy. It's a reflection, not the source. And the problem is not that you had the experience. The problem is mistaking the experience for the ground. God is the experience. The monad is what makes the experience possible. God is the wave. The monad is the ocean. And when you only see the wave, you miss the depth. Here's where it gets dangerous. Once you see this distinction, the entire religious structure begins to crack. No more priests as middlemen. No more holy books as final authority. No more institutions controlling access to the divine. No more salvation granted from above. Because there is no above, there is only here. And here is where the monad has always been. The establishment doesn't want you to know this. They need you to believe the divine is somewhere else, somewhere you have to reach through obedience, ritual, moral purity, belief. Because if you realize the divine is already here, already you, already everything, the power structure dissolves. You stop seeking approval. You stop fearing judgment. You stop needing salvation. And you become dangerous. Not because you're rebellious, but because you're free. The Gnostics knew this. That's why they were hunted. That's why their texts were burned. That's why their teachings were erased from history. Because they taught that the divine spark was already within you, not something you needed to earn, not something granted by an external God, but something you already were beneath the layers of forgetting. They called this spark the pneuma, the breath of the monad itself, appearing as individual consciousness. And they said the material world, the body, the ego, these were not evil, but they were veils, coverings that obscured the light. And the path was not to escape the world. The path was to see through it, to recognize the light beneath the veil, to remember what you were before the forgetting began. This is Gnosis, not knowledge in the intellectual sense, but direct, immediate, undeniable recognition of what you are. Let's go deeper into the metaphysics. In Gnostic cosmology, the monad is the first principle, the absolute unknowable. From the monad, the first emanation occurs. Not creation in the biblical sense, where a being decides to make something, but emanation, an overflow, a natural unfolding like light spilling from a flame. This first emanation is the nous, the divine mind, and from the nous, the Pleroma unfolds, the fullness, the realm of aeons, divine principles, living aspects of the One, wisdom, truth, life, light. Each aeon is an expression of the monad's nature, but none of them are separate from it. They are the monad knowing itself through differentiation. This is not theology. This is a map of consciousness, a description of how the formless becomes form without ever leaving itself. Everything in the Pleroma is still the monad. There's no fall, no separation, no distance, until something shifts. Sophia, the aeon of wisdom, desires to know the monad directly, not through emanation, but through her own independent act. And in that desire, in that movement away from unity, the material world is born, not as punishment, but as consequence. The world you live in, the body you inhabit, the thoughts you think, they all arise from this primordial movement of separation. And into this world comes the Demiurge, the craftsman, the one who shapes matter, who creates form, who establishes laws. The Demiurge is not evil, but it is ignorant. It believes itself to be the highest God. It says, "I am the Lord, and there is no other." And because it believes this, it creates systems of control, hierarchies, rules, punishments, rewards. It becomes the god of religion, the god of morality, the god of judgment, the god most people worship. But here's the secret. The Demiurge is not the monad. It's not even close. It's a derivative power, a secondary intelligence, a fragment that forgot its source. And when you worship the Demiurge, you remain trapped in the system it created. You stay in the cycle of seeking and striving. You stay dependent on external authority. You stay asleep. But when you remember the monad, when you recognize the divine spark within you that predates the Demiurge, predates the material world, predates even the Pleroma, you step outside the system. Not physically, but perceptually. You're still in the world, but you're no longer of it. You move through form without being bound by it. You participate in life without being defined by it. You see through the illusion without needing to destroy it. If this is stirring something in you, stay with it. Subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone ready to see beyond the veil. Because we're not here to comfort you, we're here to wake you up. Let me give you a practical lens to see this in your own life. Think about the moments when belief falls away, not because you stopped trying, but because something shifted. Maybe it was in deep meditation, maybe it was in nature, maybe it was in grief or love or silence. In those moments, there's no God above you. There's no you below God. There's just presence, vast, open, unbroken. That's not God, that's the monad. God is what you call it afterward, when thought returns and tries to make sense of what happened. God is the story you tell yourself about the experience. The monad is the experience before the story, before the interpretation, before the meaning-making. It's the raw, undivided reality that thought cannot touch. And the difference between the two is the difference between living in a narrative and resting in reality. When God is personalized, belief becomes mandatory. You must accept certain doctrines. You must perform certain rituals. You must obey certain authorities, and if you don't, there are consequences. Eternal punishment, social exile, moral condemnation. Fear becomes the foundation. Not the fear that awakens, but the fear that controls. And under that fear, spirituality turns into performance. You're not seeking truth, you're seeking approval. You're not opening to the infinite, you're trying to satisfy a judge. And even when the language is loving, even when the imagery is beautiful, the structure remains the same. You are separate, God is above, and you must bridge the gap through belief, through obedience, through surrender to an external authority. This is the religion of the Demiurge, and it's everywhere, not just in Christianity or Islam or Judaism, but in every system that tells you the divine is somewhere else, someone else, something you need to earn access to. Even in modern spirituality, the same pattern repeats. New names, new practices, new teachers, but the same assumption that you are incomplete, that you need fixing, that enlightenment is a destination you must reach. But the monad doesn't require your improvement. It doesn't need you to become anything other than what you already are. Because what you already are, beneath the layers of conditioning and identity and thought, is the monad itself, not a piece of it, not a reflection of it, but the whole thing, appearing as this specific form, this specific moment, this specific life. Here's the paradox that destroys all seeking. You cannot find the monad, because finding requires a finder, and the finder is a construct, a thought, a sense of self that arises within the monad. You are already what you're looking for. The search is the only thing in the way. And when the search collapses, not through effort, but through exhaustion, through grace, through sudden recognition, what remains is not a new experience. It's the absence of the one who was trying to have an experience. What remains is just this: seeing without a seer, knowing without a knower, being without a someone who is. This is the monad, not as an idea, but as the living reality prior to all ideas. Now let's address the question you're probably asking. If the monad is beyond personality, beyond relationship, beyond form, then what's the point of spirituality? Why pray? Why meditate? Why seek anything at all? Here's the answer. Spirituality is not about getting somewhere. It's about seeing through the illusion that you're somewhere other than here. Prayer doesn't change the monad, it changes the one who prays. Meditation doesn't bring you closer to the source, it dissolves the one who feels distant. Ritual doesn't appease a god, it attunes you to the rhythm of reality already present. These practices are not transactions, they're translations, ways of softening the boundaries of self, ways of opening the clenched fist of identity, ways of remembering what you never actually forgot. And once that remembering happens, the practices may continue or they may drop away. It doesn't matter, because the one who needed them is gone, and what's left just lives, unforced, uncomplicated, undivided. This is where the Gnostics diverged from orthodoxy. Orthodoxy said, "Believe in the God we describe, and you will be saved." The Gnostics said, "Recognize what you are, and salvation is revealed as unnecessary." Orthodoxy said, "The divine is transcendent, beyond you, above you, separate from you." The Gnostics said, "The divine is immanent, within you, as you, inseparable from you." Orthodoxy said, "You are a sinner in need of redemption." The Gnostics said, "You are a divine spark wearing the costume of matter." And for saying this, they were hunted. Their texts were burned. Their teachings were erased. Because the established powers understood something crucial. A person who knows they are divine cannot be controlled. A person who recognizes the monad within themselves has no need for external salvation. And a world full of such people would render the entire religious apparatus obsolete. So the knowledge was hidden, buried in deserts, encoded in symbols, whispered in secret circles, until now. Let's bring this down to the level of daily life. How does knowing the difference between God and the monad change the way you move through the world. When you relate to God as a personalized deity, your spirituality becomes contractual. You do good things, you get blessings. You do bad things, you get punishment. You pray, you receive. You sin, you repent. It's transactional, conditional, based on behavior. And because it's based on behavior, it's rooted in fear. Fear of doing the wrong thing, fear of being judged, fear of separation from the divine. But when you recognize the monad, fear dissolves. Not because you become reckless, but because you realize there's nothing to fear. There's no separation, there's no judge, there's no outside authority keeping score. There's only this. And this is already whole, already complete, already divine. From that recognition, ethics arise naturally, not because you're trying to be good, but because harm becomes impossible when you see that there's no other to harm. Every action becomes an expression of the whole moving through a part, and the part knows it's the whole. So violence, cruelty, greed, they all fade, not through suppression, but through absence of the root that generated them, the root of separation. The belief that you are a separate self in a hostile world fighting for survival. When that belief collapses, life becomes fluid, responsive, unforced. You still make choices, you still act, but the choices and actions arise from presence, not from fear. Here's another layer. God is relational. The monad is not. When you pray to God, you're engaging in a relationship, a dialogue between you and something other than you. And that relationship can be beautiful. It can be comforting, inspiring, transformative, but it's still based on duality. There's a you and a God, a subject and an object, a lover and a beloved. The monad doesn't relate, it doesn't respond, it doesn't engage, because there's no separation to bridge. It's the field in which all relationships appear, the ground in which subject and object arise. And when you recognize the monad, relationships don't disappear, they continue, but they're seen for what they are. Movements of the one appearing as two, conversations the infinite is having with itself. And from that recognition, relationships become lighter, less charged, less desperate, because the need for completion through the other dissolves. You're already complete, already whole, already the fullness pretending to be a fragment. Let me tell you what happens when this recognition stabilizes. When the monad is no longer just an idea, but a lived reality. The sense of being a separate self doesn't vanish completely. It softens. It becomes transparent. You still say, I. You still use your name. You still navigate the world as a person. But there's no longer a solid center to that person. No fixed identity that needs defending. No story that needs maintaining. It's like wearing a costume you know is a costume. You play the role, but you're not fooled by it. And from that clarity, life becomes simpler. Not easier necessarily, but simpler. Because the complications were always mental. The struggle was always between what is and what you thought should be. And when the one who thought things should be different dissolves, struggle dissolves with it. What remains is just this: life happening. Thoughts arising and passing, sensations appearing and dissolving, emotions moving through like weather, and none of it is a problem. Because there's no longer a you separate from it, trying to control it, fix it, escape it. There's just the flow, and you are the flow. God is a symbol humanity used to speak to itself about the mystery. The monad is the mystery before language ever touched it. God can be believed in. The monad can only be recognized, and once it's recognized, there is no argument. Because there's no one left who needs to convince anyone of anything. The search is over. Not because you found something, but because the searcher dissolved. And what's left is just the obvious, undeniable, immediate reality of what has always been here. This, now. Presence without a center. Awareness without an owner. Being without a someone who is. If this resonated, if something in you shifted, don't stop here. Subscribe to this channel, because this is just the beginning. Every video is another layer peeled back, another veil removed, another key turning in a lock you didn't know was there. Share this with someone ready to see beyond belief and into direct knowing. Comment below. What feels different in you when the idea of God drops away and only presence remains? I read every comment. This is not a broadcast. This is a conversation, a communion, a gathering of those who remember. And if you want to support this work directly, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/Magnum Opus 333. Or explore some original merchandise at my Teespring store. The link is in the description below. Remember, your consciousness is the key that unlocks reality. Let's keep unlocking it together. Thank you for watching. Until next time.